Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining tonight. We've got a hell of a show tonight. McMurray's with us.
Hey, guys.
And we've got Mr. Wargaming himself, John from Joy of Wargaming. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff tonight, but a couple things I want to talk about. As y'all all know, I will stump this until the day I die, and that is Wiley Games Fistful of Lead. Yeah, he owns me. What can I say? There's all kinds of stuff that you can do with it. You've heard me talk about it ad infinitum. What I haven't talked about a lot, just a couple times, is their new promo program that they're running coming up in 2022. You buy stuff from them, they're going to send stuff to you. In 2022, Robin's keeping a list of what you're spending. When you hit $200, you get a nifty little coaster with the Wiley logo on it. At $400 cumulative spent, you get the tape measure. At $600, you get a stack of logo coasters. Then the big one right here, $800, you get the collapsible dice tray. $1,000 gets you the hat. $1,200 gets you the t-shirt. And there is more to come.
At what point in time do we get our name tattooed on you as part of Wiley Games property?
Well, that leads into the t-shirt. My t-shirt, the Not Jay, the Chronicles of Not Jay t-shirt, which you can win yourself if you go to the video about the contest announcement, put in the Star Wars figure that you'd like to have sent to you, painted by me, and your t-shirt size, you could win that t-shirt. It does have the Wiley logo on the back. So there you go. Until December 31st, so we've got 9 days left. 10% off all PDF downloads.
Yeah.
And you don't need a code for it. It's just automatic. You say, hey, give me that PDF for Bigger Battles. You're going to get a 10% discount. You don't have to put in a code. However, if you've never used the Not J code, you will get an additional 10% off of that as well. So, Not J, Notjay, all lowercase. Put it in the coupon code field. Get 10% off of your first purchase with it. And then 10% off of PDFs right now. So go do it. Have fun with it. That's going to be one of my questions for you here in just a second, John. So don't forget that. But as y'all all know, I am a huge Star Wars fan. So this past weekend, my family did their Christmas together, and my grandson is the one who got my name drawn out of the hat, and he saw these little guys, the little badge doohickeys. I don't wear a badge at work, but I thought it's pretty cool. You got the BB-8, you got the R2-D2, you got the Stormtrooper, and you got the little Yoda.
Oh, that's pretty slick.
Yeah, that's not the really cool thing though. I also got this, which is going to get hung up here in the background here, and it's from the Mandalorian, but as you can see, it's Boba Fett, who is my favorite. And this isn't even the most cool thing that I got. most cool thing I got, and I think I'm gonna work on this and make it part of content for the show. Is I got this. It is a paper model. So it's cardstock that's been already cut. So all I have to do is follow the directions to build these things.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah,
I have to ask, what scale is that?
Bam,
Well,
there it is.
Slave 1 is 1/60th. So
All
it's
right.
going to be just over 6 inches long. Actually longer than that. Hell, that's here. There you go. And this is
That's gonna work great on table.
oh
I
yeah,
was about to say, that's
yeah.
well
This is
within
gonna,
the realm
this is
of
gonna-
passing for 28.
the big cruiser. It is 1/429th, or no 1/492nd.
There you
So-
go. That's very specific.
Yeah, it's box size. Let's be honest. It's going to be like 26 inches long.
Oh, holy smokes. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm very glad to have this. So
On the
He
bright
did-
side, at 1/492nd, you may have finally found a scale that I don't own tall shits in. So that's pretty awesome.
there you go. So yeah, that's going to be pretty cool.
It must be a warlord miniature.
Yeah, right.
exactly. Yeah,
Oh, Zig got him.
1/1800. Got him.
To quote everybody's favorite Will Ferrell movie, did we just become best friends?
Right. Chuck says evening, Chuck. Thanks for hopping on here. Ogma McDaniel says Mr. Wargaming looking fly.
Oh, stop. I think you're lying, but I like the way you do it.
Yeah. And then I have no idea what this is.
All right,
So.
there we go.
Gotta love it, right?
Do
So
trolls mean we're like you're getting enough viewers that people like take note?
yeah, I'm at 106 subscribers. We spiked right there at the end, getting everybody geared up to be, in the contest to hit 100 by the end of the year. And we did that, and then it just we're kind of coasting right now, and that's okay. I don't want to, I don't want to go meteoric. I don't want to go, ballistic on this. A nice easy wave is the best way to go. But if anybody is new to the channel, or you follow Joy of Wargaming and you're coming over here because he tweeted the link and you're here now, go take a look at the video. Whether you joined today or you've joined back in March, doesn't matter. Your name will be in the hat. So you could be brand new and still win. That I'm not holding that against you. You found us, so you're here now. That's all we need to worry about.
Happy you're here, man.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully you do subscribe and you enjoy what you see me putting together. So, but
There's a reason I'm on this channel, guys. If you're over here because you saw my notice, this is an endorsement. Not a paid endorsement, but an endorsement nonetheless. I'm
we're
a
way too
fan
broke for
of
that,
Not Jay.
and I appreciate that, sir. So, but we're here to talk about you for my guys, for my folks who, and Ogma McDaniel just subscribed. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, look at
I
that.
just got the notice.
407.
Woo, yeah. So, let's. How long have you been wargaming? Give us a little bit about yourself, as far as
Man, about 40 years now. First time
that
sitting
sounds
around the
familiar.
dinner table. back in 1978, probably. Although hard, the like what we think of as wargaming. That was my first experience with Dungeons and Dragons. Like general wargaming started in high school, same as everybody else. Discovered girls, kind of got away from it, got back into it, and then had kids, got away from it, and then got back into it. And so yeah, off and on for about 40 years now.
Sounds familiar. So you Redbox D&D?
That would have been Mold Bay.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Big brother teaching me how, setting me down the path that he abandoned right away, and look at me now.
There you go. What was your first, what we would consider miniature war game?
Probably, boy, that's going back a long time. Probably. So I got my start in painting with the old, what is it, Citadel at the time? It was a Games Workshop released a product where they had, I guess you would say the Dungeons and Dragons, right? That's a war game. And we got started with the old 25 millimeter Rao Partha miniatures for the tabletop. But what we think of as miniature wargaming today came about when you bought Games Workshop sold a product. You could get 60 miniatures for this is $1983, but it had for like $20, and it was 10 Skaven, 10 skeleton. It was skeletons, 10 dwarves, elves, goblins, and I want to say orcs. And they were all in one box, and it was just kind of a starter kit. You're painting those up. So then probably the first real miniature war game I tried was Warhammer 3rd Edition, which didn't go very far. From there, just kind of started looking around and realizing that I'm more of an indie guy and look for kind of the smaller press stuff. Very
cool. So I noticed on your channel you really dig the Osprey Blue Book series.
They're great. Yeah, actually, let me walk that back a little bit. They are a mixed bag.
There you go.
But they're only like $15. If you get a stinker, you're not really out anything.
Right.
I want to sit down and play on the 7 Seas, but it's a really weird game. In fact, I'll tell you what's been funny. I started looking into chainmail earlier in the year, and I'm finally now getting it on table and getting comfortable with it. And one of the knocks on chainmail is that it's not written very well, that there's stuff kind of scattered all over the place, and there's important exemptions tucked here, there, and everywhere. And boy, howdy, have we come a long way since then. Sorry, guys. Have you read Absolute Emperor? It's a great game. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But it's not exactly, there's some issues there with where the information is presented. Same thing with On the 7 Seas, man.
It's British.
We're not going to do that. We're not getting into that. We know it's British.
Yeah. Oh, so it could be. I don't know, man. I'm Anglo. I like the British.
Oh, so do I. It's just any set of rules I've ever read that were, perfect example. Two Fat Lardies. Love their stuff. But some of their stuff it's
Chain of Command is a bit scattered.
Yeah, it is. So,
Force on Force was that way with me too. I started with Tomorrow's War, and it was one of those games that I really wish someone had taught me how to play.
Yeah.
So that I could then go read the rules and figure out what I'm missing. Because chainmail's the same way.
There is a reason why Force on Force and Tomorrow's War, the Osprey editions, are like that. It's because of Osprey.
Okay.
I know Sean and Robbie real well. I was on their playtest group.
I had trouble with Ambush Alley though too.
Well, yeah, there was some issue, but there was particular way that Osprey wanted the book to be laid out.
Oh, okay.
And Sean and Robbie were both like, "No, we want it needs to be this way. It makes more sense." No. This is how we're gonna do it. Okay, whatever.
So their modus operandi seems to be, and I think this is one of the reasons I enjoy it. They assume that you haven't played a whole lot of miniature war games, and that they need to tell you the story of how to. Okay, here's what you need. Here's how to create your force. Here's how to play. And so it's a really interesting read. You can pick it up and read it cover to cover, no problem. But then once you sit down at the table and you need to find that one rule about this one specific situation, good luck. It's
Right.
either in chapter 2 or chapter 5. Not a great reference mode.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I found that real-
and there's no quick reference sheet at all.
That's the biggest weakness those guys have, is that you have to make your own quick reference sheet.
Yeah. So
And I've been surprised. I don't know if it's like the last 5-10 years. I'm having a harder time finding those things for whatever game I'm playing. 10 years ago, if you weren't sure how to play a game, you just go look for a quick reference sheet. You can find 4 of them, take the one you like best, you're off to the races. But these days, I find myself making my own because it blows my mind. I have a quick reference sheet for Chainmail. This game is 50 years old, and I'm constantly hearing people claim that they've been playing it, even recently. And I'm like, cool, can you send me what you got? Nothing. I don't know. So I got one. Go to johnmollison.com. Just look up, quick reference sheet. There's a bunch on there.
Wardrobe plays World War II. Todd, if you got time to text, you got time to jump in here. Mr. Wargaming, he is the man.
Right back at you, Todd.
Yeah. Todd's a good cat. He's probably eating chili and pancakes at the local high school, or walking 37 kilometers, which is like, what, 14 freedom miles? I don't know. So you talked about Force on Force and Tomorrow's War, both great indie games that were presented by Osprey and really got people to see them. And I think that's really where they got the drive to do their Blue Book series. So yeah, and I think it's a lot of the Blue Book series is almost like somebody had these rules shuffled away for years, and Osprey said, "Hey, we're looking for stuff," and they just said, "Well, you want to try this?" Which isn't a bad thing. Trust me, I love indie games. I prefer the indie game like you do. What is your? Do you have a specific genre?
No, not at all. I'm a gamer. You throw it on the table, I'll roll dice.
Got it, huh?
Yep.
All right, very cool. Jeff Heck from Hex to Hex has joined us.
Oh, look at that. The brand new miniature gamer himself.
Exactly. So, do you do any board gaming?
Board gaming, not so much.
Okay.
Not really. Little bits here and there, but that market's oversaturated, and there's a lot of stuff that just shouldn't have made it to market. It gets hard to find.
You put out a couple of videos with the Decision Games mini folio series, right?
I'm sorry. Are we talking about like Hex and War?
Yeah,
Hex and Counter War games?
Yeah.
Okay, different issue. When I hear board games, I think like Settlers of Catan.
No. Yeah. Hex and Counter War games. Sorry.
Yeah, I do. But Hex and Counter War games are one of those situations that I'm primarily a solo war gamer these days, and it's hard for me to find the time to sit down and be able to dedicate 100% of my. I know my limitations.
Sure.
I'm a really smart guy, but if I got kids yapping at me and the birds and the dog and the kid, it's not going to happen, particularly with the more complex games.
Right.
Particularly with the multiplayer games. I love them, and I would play a heck of a lot more if I had someone to kind of hold my hand and walk me through a little bit more. So I do the full. He said doo-doo. So I do play the folio games, and a lot of those are solo. But I've honestly, even playing 6 of them, I kind of burned out on them. The folio games, the 2-player folio games, like a lot of those. Who's the guy that's making all of the card-driven games?
The Hand of Fate system or whatever they use?
Yeah. So the guy, I wish I could remember his name.
Hang on.
I have one called Kyber Rifles, but they're like solo. It's not even like playing a game, because every time I draw a card, the card will say, here, you've got 2 choices. Would you like to do the thing that's really stupid, or would you like to do the thing that makes sense? It's like, well, that's not a choice. So
right.
That Hand of Fate, I don't think it allows meaningful choices, and I'm all about meaningful choices. If I want to just follow a list of instructions, I'll tell the wife I'm bored.
Perfect.
Have you tried the instructions?
Shit, what was the series Matt was playing? The U-boat Hunters or whatever?
Yeah, Hunters, Hunted, yeah.
Those seemed like they were generally solo geared.
No, absolutely they are.
And there's a good amount of choice there. It's really easy to just get killed. You know,
And that's where cards come in handy, because cards are a great way to mimic the unpredictability of an opponent. But if I'm sitting across the table from an opponent and I've only got 2 choices, what's the point? You know, you might as well be reading a choose your own adventure at that point.
Right.
You know, you're sitting there hoping the right card comes up at the right time.
I was about to say, I noticed that, especially trying to replay things and get a different result.
Sure. But see, this is why I like Wardrobe, because I can watch him on my commute and just kind of like vicariously hex encounter through him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. There's the hunters.
I've enjoyed playing this game. It might see some time on the channel also. The reason I like it is, well, it's World War II naval, which is that's my go-to thing. It's my first love. But how it's played, it's, you know, and how you track stuff is very much like a captain's log. You know, saw this ship, fired X number of torpedoes at it. We sank it. Yay. We didn't sink it. Boo. Oh shit. We got chased off by the King, you know, King George V, you know, that type of stuff.
Holy shit. You really pissed off something big if you're getting chased by a KG-5, bud.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not telling you how to run your submarine there, Chris, but...
Yeah, well, you know, sometimes the dice play dirty tricks. Oh. Do you, again, it sounds like you don't have a favorite scale either. You just, whatever works for you?
Yeah. It's, again, if you're throwing it on the table, I'm willing to play it. But for my collection, you know, you've got a lot of variables involved in all of these decisions. And I live in Honolulu, which has some of the most expensive real estate in the country. So I only have if I had a full basement, man, I would be all about the 28s. They're a heck of a lot of fun to paint. They look gorgeous. The stuff you do with Star Wars is incredible. I just don't have the space. So for me, it's got to be basically, that's what it starts with. Where can I cram this into my, you know, what can I store? So, right. And how can I, at least, if I can't achieve that bigger battles look, how can I at least achieve that feel in a smaller space? So for me, it's all about what's the smallest scale I can get away with and still capture the same feeling.
So I've been doing some homework. I've been watching some of your videos recently, and I just ran across the one that you did, British versus French Napoleonics with the Emperor, whatever, the Blue
Absolute Emperor.
That's it.
Yep.
Where you went to a different game to get the scenario.
So yeah, that's wait, which? So what did I do?
It's the British infantry were up on the hill.
Yeah, I don't.
The French skirted around.
Neil Thomas has a book out called 1 Hour War Games. Mm-hmm. And I highly recommend it to every war gamer, even if you're not going to play the rules that Neil Thomas has in there, because he's got 30 solid scenarios that have all, I mean, it runs the gamut from your basic line them up and you know, the 2 lines clash to like sweeping movement. It's just all kinds of fun little scenarios, reinforcements. Sometimes you're outnumbered, sometimes king of the hill. So that's whenever I'm feeling bored and I want to do something a little more sophisticated, that's my go-to. I haven't played all 30 of them.
Very cool.
And then, you know, and that's part of the challenge is how do I reinterpret this game into whatever game I'm playing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of gamers, especially new gamers, fall into the trap of, okay, I've got this rule set. Now what am I going to do with it? You know, I've run through the 3 or 4 basic scenarios that are in the book. Now what do I do? And,
right. And 90% of the games, they'll have just a regular clash fight. They'll have an ambush fight. They'll have a cross the board fight. And then like maybe one more, like a capture the flag or, capture the treasure fight. And then once you get done with those 4, then what do you do? Well, Neil Thomas has 26 more. And what I really like about a lot of his scenarios are you have unequal forces where one force will be twice as big as the other. But, he's balanced things out already so that's okay. The guys that are outnumbered, they've got an advantage somewhere else.
Yeah, like they're on the defense and can use hills and bunkers and whatnot.
Right. Or you've got reinforcements coming on at random time. Not random, semi-random, right? Like I know I've got reinforcements coming on turn 4 or turn 6. And that adds an additional element of strategy and tactics to whatever scenario you're playing.
Right. It's one of those, can I hold out long enough for the reinforcements to show up?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm all about wanting to show the vast variety of gaming out there. And my brother has his own podcast, The Veteran Wargamer.
I'm still here. I got to deal with something.
That's okay. And he talks about the big tent. There's literally gaming for anybody, man, woman, child, old, young. If there is a game out there, there's going to be somebody out there that would be able to get excited about it. And there's no wrong way to play with your little toy soldiers.
Absolutely 100% disagree with that.
How so?
In fact, we should probably, if we've already been 27 minutes in, wargaming is not for everybody, right?
I'm just saying gaming in general.
Oh, gaming in general. All right, we'll walk it back. I can get behind that then.
Yeah.
If you can't find a board game that interests you. But even that, I don't think that's true because gaming itself is a very active hobby. When you're done with the world and you're ready to sit down and relax, there's a lot of people that don't want to act. They want to be passive. They just want to sit back and let the entertainment come to me. Wargaming, you have to be very proactive. Or any game, you have to be proactive in coming at it. Unless the game doesn't involve any kind of decision matrix whatsoever, such as,
war. Card game war.
Card game war is a classic example. That's right. Or shoots and ladders, right? Yeah. And I don't consider those games because you're not actually going through any kind of a risk analysis or benefit process. So, we call them games because we don't, but they're a solitaire engagement. I've sat down with people and said, "Yeah, we got a great game," and it was literally rolling. It's not like less decision matrix than Yahtzee. They're just rolling dice and knocking over pegs based on the roll, and it's literally I just hope the right number comes up. Well, that's not a game. That's busy work.
I can see your point.
This is where I think I tend to limit my audience because there's a lot of war game channels out there that will tell you, hey, man, you can do whatever you want. It's all good. It's all good. And I'm not going to tell you that it's all good. There's bad gaming out there. I've played a lot of really bad games, and I've sat down at conventions. I spend money on this convention. This is not the way you do it. This is not the way the game is played. You're doing it wrong. And I tell people they're playing D&D wrong all the time. Now, bear in mind, there is that level of, look, it's your game. You do what you want, right? I'm not going to come knock the dice out of your hands. But we need a functional definition. It's okay to kind of argue around the margins, but there are people that say, well, I'm playing a game, and they're not playing a game. And it pollutes the language. And if you introduce false concepts into the overall zeitgeist of gaming, you're going to wind up with a fundamentally different experience. It's a dangerous path to walk. So while I'm all about, there's stuff for everybody, right? But there's a difference between anybody can war game and saying that war games are for everyone, right? Like anybody can come to wargaming. There's room for you.
Right. And I think
it takes a special kind of person to be motivated enough to engage in this hobby.
Yeah, and I think that's really where I'm coming from is that the door is open. If you want to get into the hobby, by all means, come on in. We're not gonna, we're not gonna shun you, or we shouldn't be shunning you if you want to be introduced to what we're doing. And and when I say, I'm not going to tell you that you're gaming wrong or you're playing with your soldiers wrong. I'm not going to tell you that, but what I will tell you is because of the way you've decided you want to play, I won't play with you.
Here's a better way to do this so that it doesn't suck.
Yeah, exactly. You
well, and that's part of the first question, right? The first principle, what are you hoping to achieve here? Because once you have established some kind of goal, then you can establish whether or not the actions you're taking are getting you closer to that goal or further away from the goal, right? So, the English language is very fungible, but I've seen a lot of hobbies that have adopted much too welcoming an attitude. And there's a certain point at which you need to establish criteria to determine that the people really have the right goal in mind, and that you're all working towards the same goal. A lot of people, because if you tell me, hey, listen, I really like wargaming for what it could be, we just need to change this, and this fundamental aspect of wargaming, and then it'll be so much better. Well, no, if those are fundamental parts of wargaming, then we're not going to change them just because you would prefer the hobby to be a different hobby. These definitions, these boundaries are important. There's walls. And one of the things I love about miniature wargaming in particular, Hex Encounter as well, right? These barriers to entry are important because it ensures that the people you surround yourself with really do have that same goal in mind. The Hex Encounter guys, you got to be crazy smart to play some of these games. And, to dumb the games down to increase the audience is a mistake because all you're going to wind up doing, it's like that classic line from the movie where the girl, it's a Tom Cruise movie where he's the sports agent. And she says, oh, I love him for the man he wants to be and the man he almost is. And it's like, you don't love him. You just love what you can make out of him. But I love miniature wargaming. So if you tell me that you want to come into the hobby and start making wholesale changes, then I'm going to tell you, you get away from my table, brother. We don't need this. If you've got some ways to improve upon the foundation that's already been established, by all means. And I say that because there are a lot of people that think that we need to make fundamental changes to the hobby because, it was made by guys a long time ago and they don't understand and we've progressed so far. We already talked about the fact that rule books haven't necessarily come very far. I see a lot of the same things in Absolute Emperor that I saw in Chainmail. Stick with the definition, and one of the things I love about this hobby is you have to be a Renaissance man, right? Think about all the skills. And you guys, you do this all the time. It just comes natural to you. But I don't think people appreciate exactly what goes into being a member of this hobby. It's not enough just to be smart. You also have to be good with your hands. You have to be good at painting, right? The bar is fungible, but you have to be willing to paint to a reasonable standard. Let me ask you guys this. Would you play with a guy with unpainted miniatures?
It depends.
One time.
Yeah, right? It depends and one time. But that's a standard we have. There's an expectation that I put 40 hours into preparing my forces, and maybe I invited you over and I put another 20 into the table, and you come over with primed miniatures? You're messing with my vibe, bro. You got to get better.
Right. Well, see, that's why I just produce both sides. You just show up. Just bring your body, bring your dice. I got everything covered for you.
Sure.
But no, absolutely. I agree.
If I put my prime tigers on the table, y'all aren't gonna play with me.
Well,
Send me the damn tigers.
Okay, so here's the deal. If you're new to the hobby, or you're just now coming back into the hobby after you've been gone for a while, and you show up with primed miniatures, okay, you get ones.
Unless your name is Jeff. Zero.
Unless your name's Jeff. No, but the next time we game, I'm not saying that you have to have everything 100%. You know, if it's like a week or two later, you don't have to have everything 100%. But I'd like to see progression. You know, okay, now we've got the tanks painted. Let's now next time you show up, you know, keep those tanks, and now let's go ahead and get your infantry going. You know, okay, you've got this team painted. Okay, next time. So, I don't want to be the guy that, you know,
you want to see some effort.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to see, because we're working on this together. It's a group effort, and if you're not pulling your weight, then there's a lot of other war gamers out there.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is, I'm the exact opposite on that mindset. Is at a convention.
Oh, absolutely.
At a convention, or you're in a tournament. I'm not a tournament player, but if I go to spectate at a tournament, every single thing better be friggin' painted, even if it's just the base, what they call the three colors and basing.
I was about to say the one thing Games Workshop ever did really positive for the hobby, aside from catfishing people into it, is introducing the three color standard with a base in their old grand tournament standards back in the day.
Right.
Because it's a low bar. I don't need to see 10s across the board. If you're painting to a 3, you put the effort in. I'm happy to see that and happy to game against it. I'm not going to criticize you for the results. I just want to see the effort.
Right.
Show me you take this as seriously as I do.
Because anybody that has watched any amount of the shows that I've been on, whether it's mine or Rocky's War Room, knows I'm not a fan of painting. I don't like to paint. It's not enjoyable to me. I paint because it has to look good on the table. I take this stuff to conventions. If I want people to get excited about the games that I'm running, they've got to look good. If they don't look good, people aren't going to be excited. So I got to paint. Because
you knock one under and you get it done.
I don't have the money to send these things off for other people to paint. You know, I know people that do that, and if that's how you want to do it, and you just want to play the game, that's fine. You do you.
Putting effort into it from a different angle, I guess. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, at least you're taking the effort of finding somebody to paint them for you. I don't have a problem with that. But there's been so many times I've gone to a tournament, or I've been at a convention, and I'm seeing just gray plastic and felt. You know, a little more effort, especially at a convention. That's all I'm saying. Or you know, taking it to especially if you're introducing the game to somebody. Like, I know when McMurray takes Fistful of Lead to game night or over to Miniature Market, you know, he brings his A game. Is it the same A game as James Wapple? No, because he's in a completely different league.
He could do me like that. Jesus.
Hey, I'm right there with you, brother. You know this. But you put forth a great product because of three things. Your miniatures are painted. The terrain is good. But where it wins out over everything is your excitement of the product, whether it's Fistful of Lead or any of the other, Let's Eat
Weird
Hitler or
games, I
whatever it's
find you can
called.
say. That's fair.
Yeah. But it's the excitement, and that's what I'm looking for, is the excitement of the people that are playing these games. Again, I'm not gonna.
Well, if you go to all the effort of getting the stuff together and hosting a game, and then you're bored, how am I supposed to get excited about it?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Couple of comments here. Warmut, just like I told Todd, if you got time to type, you got time to jump onto the channel here. He says, love the vids. Do you have a favorite fantasy or sci-fi game? How about Modern Warfare?
Watch the videos and you would know why.
Excuse me.
I got a favorite of all of those right now. Well, but I'm a dilettante. I bounce from title to title to title. I'm trying to get deeper into one rule set, and right now my favorite fantasy is Chainmail. It's the old Gygax standard, and it's a much better game than I've been led to believe. I got a couple of videos coming out. I got a big battle coming out probably in a day or two on that one. Did a little test video. That's already live. For sci-fi, Void Pirates is the one that I've had the most fun with. Part of the goal system by Four Color Studios. I did pick up their superhero game. Superheroes is an odd one for miniatures. I'm not sure about that one. But as far as Modern Warfare goes, I don't do a whole lot of moderns.
Black Ops,
Once
maybe?
we get past the Civil War, things get really complicated. The
What about
combined
Black
arms stuff, it's a bit much for me.
I got a Honolulu question for you.
You weren't enjoying Black Ops, Mr. Wargaming?
Black Ops is a lot of fun, but man, that's such a narrow focus in that game that I don't really. Do you consider that Modern Warfare?
I mean, it can certainly be applied to Modern Warfare more than anything else. I played Black Ops in a World War II setting as well, but
fair enough. When I think Modern Warfare, I'm thinking air support, artillery, and the whole 9 yards. Some of the stuff those guys are doing with Chain of Command in the World War II games are just they're amazing. But they're a little beyond me, to be honest with you.
Frederick Ork says they gave us rat catchers and green rocks. I guess he's referring to Games Workshop.
there you go.
He also says a toothpick of paint goes a long way in 2mm and 6mm. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yes. Although I'll say this, if you want to paint, I have some handy right here. Those contrast paints, those are amazing for this. Here's my 2mm skeletons. It's probably not gonna
Let me bring you up here.
Suck it, you dicks. There's other people out there that play 2 and 3 mil.
Hey,
yeah, boy.
I'm a 3mm guy. You know this.
I'm
Love
specifically talking to a
but
select
I mean,
few
that's
of our
all you
viewers.
get.
Yeah.
Those are archers, if you can believe it. But the contrast paints, the inks and washes, amazing. I got 30 bases. It took me 3 hours to paint up.
That's what I'm talking about. And Frederick also says, can't wait to see the chainmail battle.
Yeah.
And
go look. There's another guy doing the same thing right now named Purple Druid. Just Google Purple Druid on the YouTube and find him because he's doing the same thing, but he's going a little deeper right off the bat. I'm easing myself into the cold water a little bit at a time because there's a lot there and I don't want to miss anything.
Right. And then he says, no modern, says the guy who ran Gaslands.
Yeah, Gaslands is different though. It's semi-sci-fi. And that's pretty niche.
Gaslands to me is post-apocalyptic fantasy.
That being said, Playground Lands was remarkably modern.
Yeah. Nice. Jeff had a question for you about Honolulu.
Yes.
Is the Ilokai Hotel still there?
Yes, it is. And it looks exactly the same.
They there in 92 down there evaluating a scout platoon out there in the 25th. And we were staying in the barracks, and our lieutenant colonel, who had money, decided that we were all going to move into Waikiki Beach. And I ate at McDonald's across the street from the Ilokai for the whole week I was there.
There's a lot of military guys staying at, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're the Ilikai right now, to be honest with you. They had a bit of an oops with the water supply out there. That's been kind of a slow motion train wreck.
I did get to go play the Alawai golf course though while I was down there. Couldn't get on the one on the post on any of the posts. They were too busy.
Naturally.
Frederick also says we need a kids on bikes miniatures game.
Kids on bikes. Frederick,
I
you find me miniatures. I'll figure out rules for it.
I was about to say, I'll guarantee you that is right up McMurray's alley.
Yeah, I just need miniatures, then I'll make it the goofiest shit you've ever seen.
The old video game.
Hassle Free's got a ton of like post-apocalyptic kids and like Playground Warriors. Have you seen those?
I have. They're pretty.
That's
good.
one of my dream projects is putting together Kids versus Zombies game.
Yeah.
I'm about to say I got the kids versus like reanimated snowmen. That's fun.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Oh man, I forgot Hassle Freeze everything where they got their boobs hanging out.
Oh, you gotta be careful with that.
Yeah.
Yep. We did get Brian from Mini Warmutt join us also.
There you go.
So we got a full house tonight.
Yeah.
So we had talked briefly about this before we went live. From where you're from and where you are now, what got you to Honolulu? What?
It was an airplane.
I thought you drove.
Damn. Got him.
I just work. That's not true. If you've been to Hawaii, you know why I wanted to move to Hawaii. I just packed up the family and moved out here about 20 years ago. Found a job that first month and never looked back.
Okay, cool.
That said, not a great wargaming like
Community.
culture out here.
Yeah. That's where we were also headed. Was, everybody's heard me talk about the Kansas City gaming scene, the Austin gaming scene, St. Louis. I've been very lucky everywhere I've lived for the most part. I'm within an hour and a half of being able to get to a decent gaming store and be able to game. So what's it like in Honolulu?
Well, the good news is we're on an island, so you're never more than about an hour and a half away from any other point on the island. There are a couple of pretty good game stores, but the big thing is the culture out here is primarily immigrants from the East, China, Japan, Philippines. So a lot of what we consider the nerd hobby is dominated by anime and by kind of that whole vibe.
Heavy Japan, isn't it?
Yeah, so you don't have like game conventions out here the way you do on the mainland. Instead, what you have is you have anime conventions. And by the way, there's some gamers, I think, over in the corner over there somewhere. I've never gone to them because I'm just not into that whole scene. And then the other thing that happens is, again, because real estate is so expensive, people don't have basements. So there aren't a lot of guys gaming at home. But the game stores, for whatever reason, all have 4 to 6 tables that are busy every night of the week with people who bring their stuff down to game down there. But then you're looking at the fact that the game stores, most of those cultures are built around the whales, right? The guys that are spending thousands of dollars every year, 2, 3, 4,000. So you're looking at your Games Workshop, it's just not my scene, man. I'm more into the small kind. There was a huge Flames of War movement there for a few years when that came out, and I really regret missing that because Flames of War tables, I've never seen a bad one, to be honest with you. Those guys go crazy on the terrain, and it looks fantastic. The other issue, but again, I'm a family man, so I gotta like carve out half hour here, 45 minutes there,
right?
And I live way out in the boonies. You might hear the roosters going off here in a little bit. I got a farmer moving a 40-foot container about 30 feet from my window, so forgive me for that. But again, when you're an hour and a half away from the game store, it's like if I want to go throw down dice for 2 hours, I'm done, right? That's it for the night. I got to take the whole night off. So that's a big part of why I'm primarily a solo wargamer.
Yeah.
Now that said, I don't know if you knew this or not, but there's a little naval base on the island that was in all the papers in 1941. It's called Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
So the good news with the culture out here is that there's a constant churn of people as military guys come in and out. And I don't think people realize, the Schofield Barracks is a pretty sizable Army base as well. So there's usually people looking for games, but if you go down that road, and when I first moved out here, it was easy to find a gaming group, but they kept leaving after 2 years. And so it got to be kind of a slog to constantly be, sifting through and looking for people that share your gaming vibe. And so after a while, you're just like, I'm good. I'll just throw it on the table. And now with YouTube, I can game with all of your viewers. And that's great. I'll be honest with you. One of the reasons I love running the channel is because of, and you can back me up on this, not Jay, the comments people are bringing in and the things they tell you. Oh, have you looked at this product? Have you tried this technique? I absolutely love it, particularly because when I throw it on something like, I'm new to Napoleonics this year, and as long as you're up front, look, I don't know what I'm doing here. No thumbs, right? Or it's all thumbs. That's all I got. And people are walking me through. Just today, a commenter was like, no, that's what would have happened. I know that looks kind of silly to you, but a cavalry unit just standing there and just taking it on the chin over and over and over, that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. I didn't know that. My viewers are training me up, so I love it. I'm getting better all the time because of it.
Yeah. So, Modeling for Advantage is on board with us. Says, hello,
Hey.
boys. Howdy, sir.
Hi there.
Welcome. We need to figure out time and figure out time spatial differentials and whatnot, and get you get you here on the show with us also. Pardon me.
The other thing I'll say to cover for your coughing is the biggest downside of living in Honolulu is there's no mainland conventions for me. It's a $1,200 ticket. It's a 5-hour plane ride to California. Yeah. So if it's not coming out here, there's no way to spend the time and money to get out to the mainland. And I miss that. I grew up in the upper Midwest. I had no idea how great it was. Now, and I think you guys know why. There was a convention at every university. You could get to dozens of them within a 3-hour drive. Now that said, you may have noticed, and I think one of the other things that we talked about earlier with wargaming is not for everyone. I think there's less of a desire to miniature wargame in Hawaii because the weather is always so nice. People they're always outside. When you live in a place like Michigan, that's where I grew up, you've got 8 months out of the year where the sun goes down at 4 o'clock and it's too cold to go anywhere. Well, what are you going to do, right? You're sitting at home you got that 6 hours before bedtime. So there's something environmental about it. And I really think, and I think that's true in Australia. If we got any viewers in the Aussie land, I think the same thing is true. The guys that are in the lower latitudes, there's not as much incentive as the guys that are down, South Australia. I suspect those are your hotbeds of miniature wargaming.
Yeah, I know.
Paul,
Perth.
tell us.
Yeah, Paul, if you're out there, brother, come in hot.
Come in swinging, Paul.
LBW comes in, says, "Hey, fellas, would love to. Absolutely, we'll look at what's going on in 2022, see if we can't get something going there." And then he says, LBW comes in and says, "What are you saying for playing, Wardrobe?" Well, yeah, what are you playing there, Wardrobe? I got you.
Blitzkrieg Commander.
What are you playing? What's that?
Blitzkrieg Commander.
Of course you are.
That's the Wardrobe game, man.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've got my fistful of lead. He's got his Blitzkrieg Commander. Garm's coming in saying, "Great show tonight, guys." Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for showing up and watching us. I mean, God, it's a Wednesday night. There's got to be something better to do. I'm glad there isn't, but
Mr. Wargaming, what else do we have coming up in 2022?
Yeah,
it's mostly going to be a deep dive. Well, I shouldn't say mostly. It's going to be a deep dive into chainmail. It depends on what Santa brings me. If I find something interesting under the tree, we may go that route. I do owe everyone some more piratey action, but like we talked about on the Seven Seas, I don't know about that one. It's going to take a little bit more thinking. I'm going to need to, climb on a cave and do a little bit more, to really get that down before I'm ready to commit it to camera. I do have some superhero stuff coming up that's going to be a lot of fun. Again, I'm going back to 4-Color Studios. I'm going back to their super system. It's a lot of fun, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And I don't know if you can see the bare drywall behind me. I'm redoing the command center here in the house. So hopefully I'll be able to get that done in time. But honestly, I'm probably going to take a couple of weeks off to get started to get some of this stuff banged out. Let me turn that question around on you. What would you like to see?
Oh shit.
Western.
No. Honestly, the pirate stuff was pretty cool. 15 Men was entertaining to watch.
That's kind of a fun game, but I might revisit it once I get some cannons and stuff painted up so we can do it in proper war game style.
It also seemed like one of those things that you might, like you were saying, especially solo, you might just kind of run into very similar iterations because of how kind of arcade-like it seemed.
Yeah, very much so.
But
so the big thing, one of the most popular video series I had was this guy right here, and I did 2 of them. The solo wargaming guy.
yeah, I watched
wonderful
every single one of
campaign
those.
prep.
Yep.
That until I get we have, for those of you that aren't aware, I ran a couple of solo campaigns, Red Country versus Blue Country, trying to go a little old school, a lot of map-based movements and a lot of building battles that are asymmetric and predicated on the campaign game. That's really the big thing. You're going to see a lot of campaign stuff in 2022.
That's outstanding.
And then it kind of petered out because I had the critical. Well, let me just tell the story. So the first war, I needed to come up with a good reason to have a war, and a girl is as good a reason as any. So we posited that the princess who was supposed to marry the dopey prince ran off with the money. So she took her dowry and ran. And I think, McMurray, did you run the naval battle for that?
I did, yeah. In the first Elopation War. Absolutely.
And that's why I picked up Age of Sail, because I realized that was a hole in my wargaming.
Yeah.
And so now I can kind of wrap that in and build that in as well. But I've got the pirates. I just need to sit down and film it, I think. Oh, no, I know what it is. I want to paint the pirate ships. So hopefully I get those painted up pretty quick. Then we can figure out what's going on with Red-Handed Helen. She's the princess that ran away. And it could be, right, this is why we play the game. She might go out, try to steal a ship and die. All right, well, we got a blank slate. Right?
Yeah, she's going to take a splinter to the head right away. Oops.
That's you can't write the game. You set it up and you see how it goes. But once we get the pirates out of the way, then I'd like to get back into this. And I don't know, I'm thinking about that guy I was telling you, Purple Druid. He's actually using this to generate I think he's going to play a campaign of Chainmail, which is a little odd to me because Chainmail has a campaign system already. You might have heard of it. It's called Dungeons and Dragons. But, I'm all about cobbling this stuff together. Grab a little bit of that, stir in a little bit of wargaming on a budget or Neil Thomas's 1 hour war games and see what comes out. Sometimes it doesn't work so well.
I was about to say you
get better.
You got some of those Old Glory 15mm ships, don't you?
I do. Those are so good. Yeah,
I like them. I got them. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I just picked up a couple of the small ones because again I don't have a whole lot of room. But actually the first one I bought was a Merrimack miniature. I picked it up at a hobby store in South Bend. It's probably been sitting on that shelf for about 25 years.
Yeah.
Now, the Merrimack resins are now sold by Old Glory.
Yes.
So I have one little Zebek, and then I have one of the, I think it's it's the pirate ship on Old Glory.
Okay. Yeah.
Which was nice because it comes with all the cannons and all that, too. We'll do some 15 mil pirate ships, just to mix it up a little bit. And that's what's on the Seven Seas is geared towards, is actually like boarding action style stuff.
Yeah, it's once you've gone full Nelson and drawn up next to your opponent.
Right. Or like the old broadsides. What was the old there was Axis and Allies Shogun, and they had a game called Broadsides. It was the same thing. They first you maneuver your ships to find out who has the advantage at the boarding side.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say that's something I've always kind of pondered, just kind of like how people playing 40K used to, we play a campaign and then we play Battlefleet Gothic, then we play 40K. I always thought that'd be entertaining. Once you execute a boarding action, you build smaller things. The issue is inevitably that just slows everything down to a halt.
Well, yeah, that's where you do. Well, one of the things that I would love to do is play a game of like Full Thrust or, hey, not Jay. Is there a Starship version of Fistful of Lead?
Yeah, I'm about to say he's got it handy. Mine's over on the other side.
Starfighters. There you go. So you
Yes.
do a game of Starfighters to see who controls the orbital space, and then you move over. Then once that game is done, then you move over to the tabletop, and whoever won the first game gets the artillery.
Right.
Right. So that there's an impact, and you can do some campaigns. One of the most amazing things I ever saw was at a game shop where they had the 40K guys had 6 tables reserved, and they were all synced up in as far as turns go. Everybody finishes turn 1 before we move on to turn 2. And one of the tables had artillery that could be fired at one of the other 2 tables if you controlled that artillery. And so it was like an all-day thing where and one of the tables was like a spawn point where you're racing across the table to reinforce other tables. It was a fascinating way to play linked scenarios, and that's like one of my holy grails is playing in a game like that where what I'm doing here affects what they're doing over there.
Yeah. The game you're talking about, broadsides and boarding parties.
That's the one. Thank you, LBW
Strategy Gaming. Yeah.
Oh man moment here. LB, there we go.
Yeah, I'll be right back, guys.
Loved it for a gateway game.
Yeah.
There you go. It says, I've heard of some charity events where you could buy a pie plate for a donation and orbital bomb any table. And
Nice.
It's Steve. LBW Strategy Gaming is Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Yes. He was asking about your channel, so I linked your channel into the text there for everybody to see. So
it's mostly hey, let me show you how this game plays. Hey, let's set up a couple of sides and throw them at each other and see what happens. A little bit of theory, but if I don't have anything to say, I tend to not say anything. So the theory stuff all comes about just like for deep dives.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gone live yet or not, but I have one that deals with I think it's coming out in a couple of days here. It deals with how the geometry of the physical space that you're operating influences the game that you're playing, and how life changes when you're using a 2mm figure in a stand instead of individual figures.
Right.
And it's one of those things that we may be getting a little too deep, but you should think about these things. So when I play chainmail, this is the figure I'm using, and I'm using half scale. So this counts as 4 figures. Well, what does that mean when you're playing a game where you remove figures as casualties? Well, I can't remove a quarter of this, and just the fact that you've got a physical representation of a force that changes the nature of the game. I can't have any fewer than 2 ranks of dudes. If this is 4 guys, I can't have 1 rank. I can only have 2. And when I have casualties, I have to remove them in blocks of 4, which means my frontage, right, is going to be reduced by half when I remove those 4. I can't just take them off the back row. These are important considerations in game design and scenario design as well. And I think it bears worth. Sometimes you got to step back and think about these. So look for that one. That should be a fun one.
Tiger Shadow comes in. Broadsides and boarding parties, $709 on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. It ain't $700 cool.
No, you're buying it for those ships, and that's it. I would even play it for nostalgia purposes.
So, Steve gives us the thumbs up. He says he does Vassal right now due to life. Yeah, life gets in the way of gaming far too often, I think. He says,
Vassal is wonderful. One of the things that astonishes me is that it took a global pandemic to convince people to communicate online when it comes to gaming.
Yeah.
That the fact that we don't that the best we can do is roll 20, and that's a fine program, but the particularly, I guess maybe part of it is that our hobby is so tactile that we're all about handling stuff and shoving stuff, that there's no good way to do that remotely. But that's one of the things that I'd also like to look into is this maybe, well, you want to work your way through some more comments first before we go off on another rant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Steve says, yeah, have 2mm up to 28mm. I get it. Good stuff. Wasser had, I know it was worth $700. Now it would, we brought hundreds at the $50 that came out. Yeah. I like it, but I use it to fill the void, or when I just don't have room. Not a lot of Hex Encounter guys around here. Then Garm comes in. Hey, Wargaming, enjoy your subtle political commentary during your shows.
Subtle. Thanks.
If by subtle you mean like a 2x4 across the back of his head, yeah, sure.
Sometimes.
Yeah, face to face with your buddies is always best. But so I'm going to jump in before you go go down that rabbit hole. I've been part of, and I have also run several gaming sessions remotely. My brother and I have set up several instances of What a Tanker by Two Fat Lardies, where we'll have the table laid out and we've got cameras going, and we send the cards, the dashboards for each vehicle to the remote players, and then we've got copies of those dashboards, and they will, they'll roll their dice and they'll tell us, okay, I've got these dice to use and this is how I'm using them, and they say, okay, I want to move my tank 7 inches up and towards that hedgerow, and we'll go over there and excuse me, we get a full game of What a Tanker in about 2.5-3 hours. So
Okay.
it's not difficult to do. It's just, it's got to be the right game to do it.
Sure. Well,
go ahead.
How is it that we don't have a game that's specifically designed and geared towards that? It seems like a hole in the market to me. I would think there'd be fairly decent demand for something like that.
Both me and Jay Wiley have done Fistful of Lead remotely. What a Tanker. I mean, there are a lot of games that don't take much effort to make it work that way. But yeah, I see your point where, and I think a lot of times where you run into why don't we have a actual, purpose-built game that way? Well, people say, well, just play a video game. Because only the person that's moving the models at that point are actually, have the tactile feel to it. I guess, I don't know.
So, yeah, and I've seen, there is a guy that actually ran kind of as an online convention game. He ran Chainmail, and he had the board set up with giant placards, A, Unit B, Unit C, so that the guys playing either side of the battle could say, yeah, I want to move Unit C up. And he had multiple camera angles, so it looked a lot like what your viewers are looking at right now, where he had one directly overhead, and then from like left and right and all of that, and but that's a lot of logistics to try to put together to host a game, and it's out of most people's reach. But a VR, a chat like this is not. The other guy that's doing, I should say, the other guy that's doing really good work on that is James Arzowski. The Armchair Dragoons, that guy is running games like 3 times a week, big 4-hour battles using virtual tabletop.
Yeah.
But again, it's not the same. You're missing the tactile nature. It's moving digital and not moving. I mean, I don't paint much plastics because I'm all about the lead. If it's not a lead figure, I just kind of, it's called Fistful of Lead, people. You got, where is that? What is it? WileyGames.com. What's that?
Wiley-games.com.
Wiley-games.com. Yeah,
Yes.
we like the feel of lead. I need some heft in my hand.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking more about like, so let's turn the page back 60 years, right? When Tony Bath and Don Featherstone and the guys over at War Games Research Group, they were running campaigns via snail mail. And, they had the real world limitation of, I got to write it down and I got to stick it in an envelope. And now, it's a different time. There weren't as many distractions, but we now have instant communication. We've got 6 guys in 6 different cities that are all here at the same time. Instant communications.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that, but you've also got, like full time, 24/7. I can jump on any one of 8 different social media websites. And how come we're not taking, as a hobby, why are we not taking better advantage of that always on communications? I know there's problems involved, but we're some pretty smart guys. The only thing I can think of is there's no way to make money off.
Well,
and that's why those problems aren't getting solved.
Yeah, because you can do what we're doing for free.
Yeah. So, and this is, I'm leading up to one of the other things I'm looking forward to doing in 2022. I've been working with the guys over at Short Attention Span Labs. He primarily runs Conflict 47.
Okay.
But kind of behind the scenes, we're talking about putting something together as like a cross-channel thing. And I would love to be able to find a way to do an online campaign that people can watch or even participate in. And it may come down to something like, and here's where I want to step back and go into just a little bit of a story, right? Back in the day, people were playing chainmail all the time. And the guys that were playing chainmail, if you haven't seen Secrets of Blackmoor, I highly recommend it. Even if you're not interested in old school Dungeons and Dragons, I would say the first 3/4 of that movie are actually about the miniature wargaming scene in the Twin Cities, kind of upper Midwest area. And it's straight. These guys were playing, Dave Arneson was playing Napoleonics. He was a 17-year-old kid hanging out with a bunch of 35-year-olds with they were on the ping pong table and they got the masking tape laid down. And one of the guys there, for those of you who don't know, they found constant ways of messing with each other. If you watch Little Wars TV, you'll see it, right? Where they will have the board out, and then halfway through the game, the GM will bring out another 2-foot section of board to drop on the left flank and go, oh, by the way, here's more of the battlefield, and here's more opponents on that section, right? One of the ways they would do that is the GM wouldn't tell them that grassland is actually marshy until you charged your cavalry in, and they got bogged down in the marsh.
Right.
They were doing stuff like that. And one of the ways that the guy Major David Wesley, he said, here's the deal, guys. We're going to play a miniature war game. And what happens, the setup and the forces and all that is going to depend on this mini game. And the mini game was called Brownstein. Are you guys familiar with the Brownstein?
I am not.
So he said, come on over to the house and we're going to get together in the basement today. And I'm going to hand you a position. And not Jay, you might be a general of the German forces. The setting is Franco-Prussian War. We're at the dawn of that war. It's about to break out. And we're at a university that's on the border of France and Prussia. And there's all kinds of spy stuff going on. So you're going to be the chancellor, and Wardrobe is going to be the head of the student union. And then this guy, and so you're going to be jockeying for position in the tabletop game. And each of these players had their own victory conditions for that day. And the easiest way to describe it is as a live action role play. It's what we think of as LARP today, but nobody had ever done this before. And the guy running the game, David Wesley, said at the end of the night, I'll tell you what the results are and what that means for tomorrow's game. The secret was there was no game. This was the game. But what he didn't know was going to happen. So he said he had a little map drawn out with figures for your character. And when you're in a room with another character, you come behind the scenes and talk to me, and I'll arbitrate what you two talk about. So there may be some sword duels, and people may die. There may be insults, but come back here. We'll deal with it out of the sight of everybody else. What he didn't realize is that the players weren't going to wait for him. They would say, wait a minute, you're General Schmidt? Come over here. I need to talk to you. So it very quickly became obvious to Major David Wesley that this was getting out of hand, that people weren't going to wait, and that there were things going on he had no idea about. And everybody had a great time. They're like, when are we doing it again? When are we doing it again? And a couple of other guys, they ran a cowboy version where one guy, you can imagine the roles, right? I'm the head rancher. I'm the head of the bank. I'm the sheriff. I'm the head of the outlaws. I'm the head of, the Farmers Association. And it really, so then from that, Dave Arneson said, well, why don't I marry that to chainmail? And that became D&D. And there is a group of guys online that's how they play Dungeons and Dragons. It's always on. They've got like a chat room where the guys will jump on and go, my character's doing this. And it happens kind of in real time. And so I'm looking at trying to recapture that with miniature war games, where you have something very similar that you say, look, we're just going to, every day is a new day. And if you send your troops out to march over to try and seize that mountain pass today, and they're 3 weeks away, those troops are tied up for 3 weeks. What's today, like the 20th? It's going to be January 7th before you know what happens in that battle. And I think
sounds like Kriegspiel.
Very much like
yeah,
Kriegspiel.
Exactly. Very much so. Very much so. But I'm convinced there's a way to do this online where you don't necessarily need a GM, that you can have a map, and we each have a map, and we just jump in a chat room. And if there's like 6 guys, you could even do, I'll tell you the one game that's really mastered this is what I consider the first role-playing game, Diplomacy.
Oh, yeah.
Because guys have been playing Diplomacy by snail mail for as long as Diplomacy's been a thing. And guys have been saying, well, if I'm the head of Britain, I guess that makes me the king. And all their communications are, King Joe of Great Britain.
Right. Yeah.
So, I think we as miniature wargamers have some catch-up ball to play in that realm of real-time, distant gaming. And I would even be comfortable. What I'd like to see happen is, hey, here's a battle. You do this battle. Let me know how it turns out. Right? It's my guys and your guys, but you just go play it and let me know what happens. And maybe the next battle, I'll play that and I'll let you know what happens. So hopefully something like that in 2022 starts coming about.
That'd be cool. Let's see here. Steve says, I think that for mini gaming, you could do a lot of fun stuff with cameras and limited intel, so folks only see what they can see. And he says, answer to the video game question, and I don't mind them, but even playing a mini game over internet, you still get the social aspect that most AI sucks. Agreed.
Sure.
Dave Hall's in the house saying greetings. Hello, Dave. Mr. Beckus. Paul Beckus from Australia. Hi, guys. Oh, and I forgot to mention another one of our Australian viewers.
It's got to be pretty much Christmas there already. It might even be 2022 in Australia already.
It could be, yeah. Tiger Shadow.
Yeah, there it is. Jesus.
Excuse me. Also one of our, if I remember correctly, one of our Australian viewers.
Hang on, guys. I'm going to skip rent to go buy this game.
Yeah, right. Steve says, one of the best games I've ever played was a diplomacy game via snail mail with 2-week turns. And that old chestnut, you can ask Paul about going outside now.
It's gorgeous down there for Paul. It's like in the upper 80s, low 90s. I'll trade you, Paul. Gladly trade you.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we've got, it's now, it's still 36. And again, that's Fahrenheit.
57.
Shut up, Brian.
That's in 12ths, not in 10ths. No, actually, it was about 10 years ago now, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, that I played Diplomacy with my brother and some of our buddies via email. And we would have 1 week to do our stuff. 18 and Steve, is that where you are? Is Fargo?
There you go. So it's real cold there.
Yeah. I know Fargo very well because my family's lake cabin is just north of Detroit Lakes. If you're from Fargo, Detroit Lakes.
It's a great movie.
Anyway, 35 today, 38 tomorrow, 42 Christmas and Boxing Day, 40 on Monday. Yesterday it was 8. You see, we're dealing with two separate scales. I will take 35 Celsius any day of the week.
Oh, 40's 104? Hell yeah. Let's do it.
I'm all
Let's
about
do it.
that. I'm all about that.
That's
So-
I've run enough outdoor ranges in the stupid sun. Yeah, let's do it. That's my happy place, Paul.
You guys can have all of that, man.
Says the guy who works outside in Arizona all summer. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I said you guys can enjoy it because I get too much of it.
Anyway, Stu says when we're all chatting in January, we'll have highs below 0. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And it's ass.
What do you mean we, Kimosabe? I'm in Honolulu.
Yeah, I was about to say. As our guest tonight lives in permanent tropical.
That's the royal we in Fargo.
Last week, it got so cold, I had to close the windows. It was like 58 degrees at night. It was just bonkers.
Jesus. I believe the word you're looking for is balmy in December.
Yeah.
That said, I'll tell you one thing about living in Honolulu, though. There's a lot higher. The radiation is a lot higher. You sunburn crazy fast out here.
Dude, I got the complexion at Elmer's glue. I sunburn crazy fast in Missouri in the fog.
Man, you come out here, you be burned to a crisp in 8 minutes, man. So and look at me, right? I'm not built for this, so I hide from the sun. Maybe that's part of why I'm one of the few miniature wargamers out here.
Right. Steve's got to go. Great conversation. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Hope you drop by next week for our year-end show. That's where we get to find out who's getting the Star Wars miniature and the Chronicles of Not J t-shirt.
They're still getting an Ewok too, right?
I got to get it from you, but yeah, they're getting an Ewok.
I mean, I'll be seeing you in 3 weeks.
Right. Paul Beckett says Honolulu, best place on the world.
That's quite high praise coming from Paul. He also lives in damn near tropical paradise.
Yeah,
I like
take care, Steve,
Hey, it's a city. It's got its issues, but I like it.
There's no issues in major cities.
Oh yeah.
What?
Well, we're somewhat insulated thanks to the half an ocean.
Why do you think they had an entire series called Hawaii 5-0? They've got issues.
No, there's no issues in major cities.
So,
there's a reason nobody makes St. Louis 5-0 is because that's just depressing.
there is that.
Hey, guess what?
That's because you don't
have
50 cops there to be a 5-0.
Speaking of Hawaii 5-0, if you want to see your old pal Mr. Wargaming take a bullet in the brisket, check out the Halloween episode from season 3.
I was about to say, yeah, I recall that being mentioned in an interview at some point.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, I have to check that out.
YouTube views are about to go way up on that clip.
Right?
2 dozen extra views.
So have you had any experience with Fistful of Lead?
I have not. It's hey, what are we seeing in 2022? Probably going to be some Fistful of Lead.
Outstanding.
I was about to say, I have a spare digital copy on account of the fact that for whatever reason, when I enter the Wiley store, early onset dementia takes hold, and I just lose all the books and forget which ones I have on PDF.
So
honestly, I'm kicking myself for not taking advantage of the hardback bundle.
Ooh, it's great.
I'm really hurting. I would love to have one of those hardbacks.
Where's the Warmutt? He always trots it out because he's so proud of it.
Right. Now, the thing is, if you like sci-fi,
oh yeah,
he, being Jay Wiley, is going to be doing we'll be doing a hardback version of Galactic Heroes.
But what's it going to include?
Okay.
It's going to have Galactic Heroes. It's going to have Starfighters. It's going to have the ship not recognition, but the ship manual and the Encyclopedia Galactica, all of them together, hardback. Pre-order it now until March 31st. Pre-order it now for $65. Only chance you're going to get, though, because they are not going to keep any in stock. I'm getting mine. I was lucky enough to get a hold of the softbacks of the fantasy. Would I like to have the hardback? Sure, just because I'm a completist. Am I broken up?
Wait, are those softbacks for fantasy available right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I thought it was just PDF. I gotta get on that.
I was about to say, or you can be like me
man.
and just get the PDF
Yeah.
because I misplace copies of the softbacks constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Office
they're-
Max is my friend. Which also,
Yeah,
if you guys are international, is a really good option.
Yeah, exactly.
Buy them and print them on your own.
So, what I was going to say about McMurray is that if you remember earlier, I talked about the promos that they're doing. You spend X number of dollars and you get the tape measure. You spend Y number of dollars, you get the whatever. Yeah, they're already building a crate for McMurray. He spent so much with them.
Well, that was my point originally. Was like, I've been telling Jay for the longest time that he needs to have just put everything in my cart button.
Right.
But yeah, just like when you go into a sandwich place, you're like, yeah, load it up. The
Yeah.
classic office
Mhm.
pretzel day situation. Like, can I do everything? The works. Yeah, that's a thing. But again, like I said, I misplace or I loan out my paperbacks so often because, a lot of rule books I'll have, and they'll kind of like sit in the case with the miniatures, right? Like my bolt action rule book sits in the case with 28 millimeter World War II miniatures, right? It's not a big deal. It's just where it goes. My copy of It Is Warm Work is in with my 1/2400 ships. Not a big deal. But with Fistful of Lead, I find myself taking it out and looking at it all the time. And I also find myself taking it places and people are like, man, those are cool. And a bunch of them, it's like, no, asshole, buy your own copy. But occasionally I get buddies. It's okay, yeah, sure, here. Like, borrow it, read it, play again with your kid, and then give it back to me, and we'll get it figured out. So I just wound up getting, I found my second, and guess how many copies of Tales of Horror I own? None.
4.
3.
4.
3. At some point in time, I bought 3 copies of Tales of Horror. I bought one from Tim. I bought one from Jay at Recruits way back in the day, and then I have no idea where this third one is. No idea. But that, both editions of Horse and Musket, all the fun stuff. So, I mean, eventually, yeah, probably just buy the PDFs because then I can keep reprinting them.
Paul says, "Come on, Mr. Wargaming, I'll buy you a copy." There you go.
I think that's figured, Paul.
I'm looking for a new sci-fi set anyway. From what I've seen in your live plays and over there on the Baron's channel, it looks like it should be right up my alley. Does he have the solo bolt-on in there too?
The what?
It's free.
Solo play?
Yeah,
It's
solo
a-
play is free.
Yeah.
It's a free
in the
download.
PDF download.
Fair enough.
10% off that also.
Yeah, 10% off. What the hell?
Sweet.
I was about to say, the cool thing is-
Rev-ever,
Oh.
whatever. Mr. Wargaming for president.
Whoa,
we had
whoa. That's
we
Paul's
had- no.
line for me. There you
We
go.
had an immediate response.
What's up, Paul? I see you out here doing work.
Paul says he can't take McMurray's job.
It's okay. He's going to hit 35 before I do, so he can have it for a minute, and then I'll take over.
And Paul also wants to know what War Hobo is playing. He's playing Blitzkrieg Commander.
Yes, I believe that's on the same table from our first game of Gem Below Gap, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. We'll be playing that second game next week. Todd, right? Yes. I'm just going to show up at your house because now I know where you live because you screwed up. But no, I think, John, I think you're going to enjoy Fistful of Lead. Not that you haven't had enough exposure with it here, but because you're very, I know, enthusiastic, and you really enjoy taking framework for rules or rule book, and then as you've been, talking about adding things, making it your own, using that to create what you want to do, which I know you've talked about with rule books in the past, the rule books that you can read through, and then all of a sudden it's not necessarily as useful the second and third times you're reading it, as opposed to the rule books that might not necessarily be as artistic or whatever to read through, as narrative, I guess, to read through, but then you can go back and refer to time and time again, and they're really manuals for here you go. That's part of what I really enjoy.
There are so many different science fiction figures out there and so many different styles. And you wind up as a partial collector, you've got this mishmash of figures that are appropriate for everything from, some of them are more appropriate for tomorrow's war. Yeah, forgive me. We're rescuing a parrot. Can you hear that background noise?
Yeah, that didn't sound like Biscotti though, so who knows?
No, that's not Biscotti. That's the new bluegill macaw. So apologies for that.
That's okay.
So mishmash, and like, how do you fit all of these guys into the same rule set? That's what I'm looking forward to trying with Galactic Heroes, because I know it's wildly flexible and it'll let you do things like that.
Yeah. You can do some weird, goofy shit, and I love it.
The other thing that you might want to add, and it's just all depending on how many figures you want to play with, you might want to add bigger battles.
Right on.
What bigger battles does is, with regular Fistful of Lead, whatever version it is, you get a card for a miniature, right?
Mm-hmm.
What bigger battles does is you get the same number of cards, but that card activates a squad.
Right.
And that squad can do things, not even have to be the same thing. So when we've played with bigger battles with Star Wars, we would have 3 squads of 5 each, a leader, a hero, and a vehicle. So we're actually getting 6 cards.
Sure.
But yeah, it just allows us to that big game where we had 10 players. We had 180 miniatures on the table.
Yeah, that big Star Wars game at the crossover weekend was 180 something, including 8 vehicles or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
So 180 miniatures, 8 vehicles, 10 players. We finished the game to a decisive conclusion within 4 hours. And that was with a lot of jaw jacking.
There was a lot. I was about to say, we got through the first 3 or 4 turns in under 30 minutes each, which was wildly impressive to me at least.
So,
well, and everybody had something to do. It wasn't like 3 of the guys were sitting over there reading a magazine waiting for something to happen.
Right, exactly.
Golf. Yeah.
Yeah. Old Chestnut comes in and says, can't watch a war game chat these days without a bird mouthing off in the background.
Nothing wrong with that.
Hey,
there's a type.
Nothing wrong with that.
We got a type.
So, there we go. Excuse me. So, and it's
the other thing I'll say, the bigger battles is a smart move, because if I could steal the mic here, that one of the things I suspect is about to happen in the miniature wargaming realm is that we're going to see a renaissance in the bigger battles.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's everybody for about the last 3 to 5 years has been shifting over towards skirmish fights where you only need to collect 5 to 10 figures and paint those up and you're good to go. Generally, particularly in the YouTube space, and again, I'm looking at the hobby through a little keyhole here of what I see online, but the overwhelming take seems to be, you see this on shows like Tabletop Minions, that it's just easier, and that's true, but I think that this cycle of focusing more down on the small unit action is about to give way to a renaissance in larger battles where people are going to start being more interested in the spectacle and the showmanship. Yeah. And one of the reasons I think that's true is that we went through a cycle about 10 years ago of big box games that had tons of miniatures that didn't really get played. And the most recent one of those cycles, if you guys were watching, was the large scale miniatures, right? Oh, I played D&D and I'm getting a dragon that's like this big for my 28 millimeter figures. And they would cost 150, 130. Again, the whales, the guys that spend big bucks, That's what they were into, to like put on their shelf and show their clout. Yeah, you know, I'm one of these guys. I spent a lot of money on this figure. But that kind of died off a little while ago. And a lot of what I'm seeing in the painting sphere is, I'm not interested in spending that kind of money on a figure that's only going to see the table one time. So the people that are looking for that kind of easy clout, I think, are going to start collecting larger mass battle. And to be fair, the historical guys have always done that. They've always had, 8x4 tables that are covered with miniatures. The Napoleonic guys, they got to be looking at me like, the redheaded stepchild with my little 2mm figures on a 1-inch base. So that would be, and I'm not predicting, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of the next wave that's going to rise up.
I was going to say that the cool thing you see, again, as much as I despise the rule system and how they're executing it, Warlord is sliding that in there. I think that's more trying to recoup something out of bolt action and black powder than anything. But just the idea that that's coming into players' ideas at the same time, when even on the flip side, Warlord has released their Firefight edition of bolt action, which is far more single squad level. I absolutely agree with you. I look forward to that too.
And they found a great way to make that more accessible to people that are strapped for time. We made fun earlier of their what is it, 12.5mm scale?
Yes.
That will be proprietary until the STI files start dropping. But they found a way to solve that, right? You can paint a strip of figures in the time it takes you to paint one figure. And now you only got to paint whatever it is, 12 strips, and you've got a big unit on the table. It's a fine scale, and I think they're going to do well with it. And it looks great on the table, but I don't need another scale. I got enough as it is.
So Ogma says he's out. Great stream. Thanks for chatting. Paul,
thanks for bringing by, brother.
See ya. Yeah, and thanks for the sub. I appreciate it. Modeling for Advantage here says, I disagree. I think it's going smaller. Time to paint, time to play are the challenge. Now, I'm going to agree, but disagree. I think going smaller is what's going to happen, but it's the way that I'm going and the way John's going. And by smaller, we're talking scale. I've told y'all I'm in the process of building out the entirety of the 49th Armored Division Texas National Guard in a 1-to-1 scale. So I'm going to be getting something like 305 M113s. I'm going to get 360 M60 A3s. I'm going to be getting close to 50 artillery pieces. And because A, I'm nuts, but B, I can do it in 3mm and get 15 models for $4.75. And it doesn't take a whole lot to paint them. So I agree that we're going to be going smaller, but I think we're going to go smaller in a bigger way. So, John's 2mm French and British squares.
Irregular. Go look at them.
Yeah.
Go check them out.
We're going to see more of that. I mean, right here, I 3D printed these. These are M1A1s, printed on my resin printer.
Ooh, fancy.
Well, and there's actually a renaissance in 2mm going on now too. Maybe it's, I should clarify, this might be kind of an observer bias. Maybe I'm seeing it more because I play in 2mm, and it's been going on for 30 years and I'm just now noticing it. But Project of Wargaming is another excellent YouTube channel I recommend. He actually does 3D printing 2mm, but rather than doing kind of one regiment at a time on a 1-inch base, he will print up like a full division on a 3x5 base. So there's just armies of guys. There's a couple of guys that are doing that, their bases are a lot bigger, but they look like proper armies and they look really good.
Yeah.
So that may be as well. The other axis on that chart though is complexity. If you're going to go down to where, hey, I don't want to have to paint 5 miniatures, I'm just going to paint 1 miniature. There's like, and there's room for a lot more like thinking and analysis here, but there's the processor load on the players and how complex. As you reduce the number of figures on the table, you can make each figure more complicated to use in order to maintain the same level of decision making, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So if we do go smaller, easier to assemble, I would anticipate that you're going to see a lot more complex man-to-man style rules.
Right. And
that's the square and you've circled that square already with Fistful of Lead, because you've got, you can adjust that dial. Do we want to go bigger battles, or do we want to go, I can only handle 3 guys? And you just grab the other books. That's a neat trick, and I think it's going to pay off.
So, and here's something again.
Mouthing off down here.
My money is on 54 millimeter being the next big thing for 3 to 10 figure games on 4x4 boards. So just address this real quick. You've heard me talk about him before, Chris Clucky.
I'll be right back, guys.
Okay, does amazing work with 54 millimeter French and Indian War, using Fistful of Lead and muskets and tomahawks. I think it is beautiful models, but yeah. On the flip side, like you're talking about, being able to change the dial, as it were, change. Am I going this size? Am I going this way? Whatever. Jay Wiley has come out and said that he is working on a gladiator game where you control a single figure. I could definitely see someone doing that in 54 millimeter, where you're only having to worry about a single 54 millimeter figure. So yeah, I can see that happening also. And then it says, well, you see in this, you're right, but you're talking about us, old men with time and money, but the real market is the new guys. They are overwhelmed by the mass battle stuff. Again, not if you ease them into it. You ease them into, okay, here's 5 guys, all right, in this size scale. But what if I showed you for the same amount of money, you can use this size guys, and you can have an entire army looking and use the exact same rule set. So Paul says 2 millimeter is too small, might as well play Hex and Counter. Well, you know what, and that's, it's not for everybody, and that's okay. And that's where I go back to, I'm not going to tell you.
Paul's so full of shit. He's got a whole bag of 2 millimeter Napoleonics he bought last year. Don't let anybody tell anybody different. Sorry, I heard it and had to run back into the room real quick.
Right. But again, what I'm saying though is I'm not going to tell you you're playing your game wrong just because you want to use a scale that, isn't quote unquote the norm. And then he says 54 millimeter equals all new terrain. And to be honest, you're right. But that's the way it is with, any new scale that you work with. I literally have everything from, at this point in time, 2 millimeter all the way up to 35 millimeter stuff.
So let me show you something. We've got a Not Jay exclusive. When you're looking at, give me the camera real quick. When you're looking at figures that are this size, you're not necessarily wrong. The only thing sticking up there is that banner. But because I'm not doing Hex and Counter, I can still do terrain. This is a castle from Irregular Miniatures, and it does have some relief. I actually kitted it out. Get that on camera there. So the rocks, these pebbles, the cliffs are pebbles I pulled out of my yard. And I put a little bit of, time and effort into that, and I got some relief. It's not much, but nobody's doing this for Hex and Counter, baby.
Yeah.
That's it. I just want to show it. I got Undead City too. I took a couple of see these statues in the front?
Yeah.
They're Grim Reaper style. Those are actually 6 millimeter undead.
Yeah.
And then there's a little Middle Eastern town for the City of the Dead. So
Nice.
you can still have some fun with terrain, even in
And-
2 millimeter.
And excuse me, you're talking about hex and counter. That's what I'm doing with my 3 millimeter stuff. Is I'm going to be using it with World at War 85, hex and counter game. So
I just really like rulers. Okay.
yeah, exactly. See, Mountain for Revenge says, Paul, and that's the main reason it's not yet happening, in my opinion. It is. The change from one scale to another does require new terrain, and it is difficult to have multiple pieces of terrain for multiple different scales. It happens. So
And it's hard to resist. There are so many good manufacturers out making so much good stuff.
Yeah.
If I had the time and space, I would be on Warlord like a fat kid on cake.
Right.
But I just don't have the time or the space. And so even the chainmail stuff, I probably would like to have gone with the 15 millimeter. But, and what breaks the bank for me on that one is the cavalry. It doesn't take a whole lot. I could store, 500 miniatures in a little case until you put horses in. And who wants to play a medieval battle without horses? That's no fun.
Exactly. The Old Chestnut says Five Guys sounds like a restaurant in one of those places where they call Hardee's Carl's Jr. Well, except in Illinois where we've got Five Guys and they're called Hardee's. So, and he says it looks like a Christmas cookie. Your castle.
It's actually an Easter egg.
Oh, there you go.
If you don't want to pay, $8 for a Litco base, I got a little craft Easter egg to put my big terrain bases on. For these are 30 cents on Amazon or at Walmart. But don't eat it. It wouldn't sit well. There you go. Yeah. Okay. So, but we can talk a little bit more about storage, right? Because I can fit 2 of those into this case. This case it's designed for holding. It's actually 4x6. It's designed for holding photographs and for fixing it. So all I do is I put a little bit of foam in on top to kind of fix it in place. And then the next step, what's beautiful about this is for about $30, you get one of these bad boys. And it's got 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 16 of those in it. So I've got one for my 2 millimeter terrain. I've got one for fantasy and one for Napoleonics. So I can grab 2 of these cases and I've got a full table ready to go.
That's what I store my 15 millimeter World War II stuff in.
Yeah.
What I've done is I've put all of in. Originally, they were all done up for Flames of War, so they were on those rectangular stands and whatnot. I stopped playing that. Started playing Chain of Command and other World War II games, and so I individually based them onto washers and put magnetic strips in the bottoms of that. I can fit an entire platoon, a U.S. Army platoon, a platoon in one of those boxes. And
in one of these boxes, you get one platoon in this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I get a whole platoon, 3 squads, 12 dudes each, plus headquarters. I can get an entire, battalion in one of those cases.
And so the other nice thing about this is because the handle's on top, they're always vertical, right? You don't have to worry about dumping like that. So the magnets will work well for that. Yeah.
Paul says Mr. Wargaming is trying to make me buy more stuff. He's already made me buy 2 tumbling dice fleets, fighting sail, and the Napoleonic Blue Book. So there you go. Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
I've made him buy all kinds of shit. So
McMurray made me buy fighting sail.
There you go. No. Well, we're pushing an hour and 49 minutes. I don't know if you'd realized that or not. People tell me that we sometimes have this time dilution or dilation thing where they don't realize how much time we've spent together. I don't know. But we're
I
coming
hope
up.
you all
on-
got a lot of painting done.
Yeah, well, I didn't. I am working on this guy though. The Zuikaku.
Oh, okay.
This is my Friday video.
Is that a carrier?
Yep. Yeah, Japanese carrier. It was at Pearl Harbor and was the last of the 6 ships, last of the 6 carriers from Pearl Harbor to sink during World War II. So we'll be going more into that on my voiceover on when I do the painting video for it, which is coming out on Friday. So this will be good. This will be done tomorrow night. So, yeah, I've got something. I got a nifty trick, Paul, that I hope people enjoy. Not everybody is going to be able to do it because not everybody has the equipment at their disposal that I have. But I think you'll like what I'm doing to get the lines on the decks. So, I hope y'all are enjoying the videos that I'm putting out, especially my painting ones. Excuse me. I've seen a lot of videos where you see them putting it together, you see them painting it, and they speed it up, but then it's just some sort of music being played, and it's like, So that's why I decided to have a little fun and talk about the ship that I'm painting. And I'll, if I do other painting videos, I will do the same thing. If I'm painting up, like some of my Mandalorians, when I start painting them up, I'll talk about Star Wars, be specific about them. Something to, yes, you get to see what's going on, but you also get to hear a little bit of interesting things. So Paul says I'm doing it right. So thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. Before we head out, wardrobe.
Yeah.
You've been quiet. You've been having fun with your game. Who's winning?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm gonna say, I don't know. It's kind of a draw right now. It's German's French right in the middle of the game. I don't know. I can't say. Sorry.
That's
I did want to say, well, he's gone now, so I can't say it to him.
Chestnut, well, I got to run. Always enjoy these shows, even though I'm a Hex Encounter guy and don't play miniature war games. Like your style, probably because I got into tabletop with AD&D. See ya. Take care, sir. Thank you for dropping by. Thanks for interacting. That's what I probably enjoy the most about the live shows is the interaction that I get with you guys.
All right. Since we're closing out here.
Hello, Bird.
There we go. A little cameo from Biscotti.
African Gray, yes?
Yep. Right. This is the guys, the Red Tails from World War II, the African-American fighter pilots.
Yep.
They adopted the Red Tail because
of the African Gray. Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
Very cool.
Didn't know that.
Well, see, now if I paint up a P-51 done up like the Tuskegee Airmen, I've got something to say about it.
And I can send you a reference photo.
Very cool.
So yeah. The other one thing I want to say is funny. Or way earlier in the video, Mr. Wargaming, you said something about you're kind of like all over the place with rules. And what's funny about that is, I thought I would have said a while back, maybe not recently, but I would have said you were kind of focused on a certain set of rules, and so that's why I kind of was like, kind of inspired me to focus on a certain set too. But you don't really do that, so I guess.
Well, one of the reasons I started the YouTube channel is because I want to know about a game, and I would hop on YouTube and I'd look for videos on how to play it, what it's like, and I couldn't find anything. Yeah. There was like one guy, the Solo Wargaming Show was the only guy that had done the Black Ops. And so I was like, man, why isn't anybody doing it? And eventually one day you look in the mirror and go, hey, when it comes to anybody, you're definitely one of them. Maybe it's time to get started. So I do enjoy, and that's kind of what I'm working towards with the chainmail, is like really getting, elbow deep inside it. But at the same time, trying to fill some of those gaps in smaller press titles And with the Osprey Blue books, they sell like hotcakes, but there's a lot of those titles and not guys making videos on it. So
Yeah.
I'll keep trying to fill in those gaps in between and not going quite as deep. But like, again, with Absolute Emperor, that's a game that's got some really sophisticated, interesting things going on. So there's more to talk about. And like Planet 28, I did like 5 videos and there's nothing more to say. That's it. We're done. So put it aside and look for another sci-fi game, maybe something like Galactic Heroes.
Well, I really appreciate your channel, so I'm glad you do what you do.
Thank you. Like I said, I vicariously live in a Hex Encounter world through you.
Oh, it's beautiful. Nice. And thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah. Warmut, you got anything?
All right. Oh, smokes. We can see Todd's face.
No? Okay, fine. Yeah, wait. McMurray, welcome back.
What's up?
You got anything more you want to lay down?
I would assume Paul is talking more smack. That's okay though. He knows I'll get back to him on the Discord. But no, I'm happy to have John on here. It's been a long time coming. I mean, obviously everyone here is big fans of your content. Look forward to seeing more of it. And yeah, I mean, there you go. Is there stuff, John? Is there stuff you want to see on this channel, on any of these channels?
I like it when you bring the random guys in that I've never heard of, the guys with smaller channels, and just talk and get to meet them and, put a face to the channel kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm like,
I think what you're doing here is great. If I had a way to improve it that didn't involve, me coming on, but you already did that. So you're doing great. Keep doing what you're doing.
You're welcome back anytime.
You will find me in the comment section every time, at least for a few minutes, whenever I can break away.
Yeah.
Sounds good, brother. Sounds good.
We support the smaller channels. That's why we have not Jay on here.
Right.
Oh, look at Todd being all cool. What
I got over 2,000 now.
Mr. 2000.
Look at me, I'm Todd. I've been doing YouTube for 9 years. Yeah.
Well, I'm the clueless one.
Yeah, and you still have more than I got. So
Yeah, but Brian, you've been doing good stuff, man.
Yeah, you have. I love your terrain, dude. That keep that up. Absolutely, keep up your trash terrain, man. That's the bee's knees.
Take this out of garbage, and this is what you can make.
Yep.
Except for just like we were talking about accessibility earlier, that's what it is. You're not paying, $20, $30 for a 28 millimeter house or piece of terrain. You're making it.
Yep. Paul Beck says,
and one other thing, right? One of the reasons that I started the channel is to show people that for God's sake, you've seen my terrain. Like he said, why not Hex Encounter? Some of the terrain is just literally a Brillo pad for a forest. Show people it's okay. I use yarn for roads.
Yeah, Paul,
it's okay.
It's because
we're getting better all the time. No, but that's one of the things I like about trash terrain is you have got no excuse. You got the materials to build some science fiction terrain in your kitchen right now.
Yeah.
Grab a glue gun, start slapping it together. Spray paint a black dry brush, you're good. I love it. It's inspirational. It's fantastic stuff.
I mean,
that is one of the really cool things I enjoy about your channel. Not only do you do that with rules in terms of talk about the rules a little bit, throw a couple, groups of guys, forces on the table, play that out, and then kind of expand. But then also, you've done a really good job of kind of doing the whole aspect. Like Riot, you did an incredible job with, because you did, okay, here's the rules. Here's how I got the rules. Here's some forces. Here's how I'm going to build all this 2 millimeter, 6 millimeter terrain. And then the cool thing that you do, which is obviously, again, as we touched on earlier, a consequence of your situation in your space, is you talk about, here's how I'm going to store this. Right?
It's not sexy, but it's important.
It is.
And you have to
really
start
important.
there. Otherwise, it winds up in the garbage.
Or you wind up like me, and there's just miniature war game shit everywhere in your house.
Yeah.
All those boats.
Yeah, it's kind of an oh, shut up. But yes, they're everywhere, man. Every now and then I feel like how the comptroller of the Royal Navy must have felt in like 1900 or 1905 when Dreadnoughts sliding off the slipways and HMS Warrior is still listed in the reserve as an armored cruiser. Like, what the hell realistically, what are you going to do with this? Oh, no, but I'm not going to get rid of it.
Right.
Which, again, is the consequence.
And we lost him. The consequences are you're going to lose your internet. Paul says, Merry Christmas. Thanks for keeping me entertained all year. I appreciate it. Hey, Paul, we're just happy to have you, brother. You've had a hell of a year this year. I hope your new year is going to be much better. And I'll keep producing the content if you keep watching it. That's all I can say, man. I'm just hoping more people will watch and subscribe. Actually, I was looking at my analytics, and I know a lot of channels will be like 30% subscribed, 70% not subscribed to watching. I'm actually, last time I checked, I was sitting right around 75% subscribed. So, I mean, the people that I'm reaching out to are subscribing. I'm hoping to be able to reach more. So,
I think the better question is, what the heck is wrong with the 25%?
yeah, exactly.
Come on.
It's free. Literally, all you have to do is this.
We got to pump those numbers up, baby.
Yeah.
There better be thumbs. I better see thumbs on this.
Absolutely.
There you go.
And then Tiger Shadow says, thanks so much to everyone. Thanks, Biscotti. Shout out to the bird.
There we go.
So,
that's okay. Half the time we're staring at Clark and Kent. So.
Oh, and from time to time you might see the new puppy. So,
Yeah, that's fair. Super soaker.
Anyway. But guys, thank y'all for joining me tonight. John, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks for having me. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, you too. Keep doing the great work you're doing, man. You got a superb channel.
Genuine.
And if there's ever any time you want to come on and chat about something or focus on something that's near and dear to your heart, let me know. We'll get you in here.
We need to have a ship day someday.
There you
Just
go.
go 8.
So, well, folks, I think we're going to wrap it up for the evening. Be on the lookout for my videos Monday mornings and Friday mornings. I'm going to got a couple more weeks of ship stuff, and then I'm going to be start talking about World at War 85. We're going to be gearing up for getting their Kickstarter going here in February for their next volume. So be on the lookout for that. And like, subscribe, give a thumbs up. Let's make this place grow. I'm really excited about what we've got going for 2022. Remember, next week, end of the year, we're going to find out who wins the grand prize. So, oh, crap. Hopefully I'll over this cough. I won't be.
Dr. Coughingstein's monster.
Yeah, right? So, anyway, guys, thanks so much. Chuck, night all. Merry Christmas. Be safe. And we'll see you on the flip side.